Hello, are you here to debate?
I am.
All right, what's your name and how old are you?
Name's Jason, 42 years old.
All
Want to
right,
do run with number 3 today.
run with number 3. Okay, Jason, what about it?
Yeah, I just I'm curious why you would advocate for children transitioning when the trans community has the highest suicide rate out of anybody in the population, and it kind of feels like you don't like kids, man.
The trans suicide rate is high pre-transition. It drops significantly post-transition. So if
Well,
children are part of the trans community and trans children have a high suicide rate, then transitioning would help lower said suicide rate.
yeah, I mean, wasn't there a study done in Sweden? I believe Elon Musk just brought it up, the Kalinska study, and it basically showed that there is absolutely no change in suicide rates from hormone blockers or transition therapy,
No,
and that
doesn't
the
say any of that actually.
well, yeah, it does. It absolutely says that,
It doesn't. It
and
says
it
that
also
the
says that
I can tell you what it
the,
says. I can tell you what it says. I know about the Sweden study.
the
I've not only
suicide
read the
rates are
Sweden
higher
study. Hold
in
on.
children.
I've not only read the Sweden study, I've read the amendum to the Sweden study, which the authors put out after everybody started misquoting their study. They put out an amendum to say, no, this is not what our study says. What the study shows
Yeah,
is that the
and the
trans.
addendum
I'm
was
gonna.
to say that the suicide rates have not
No, it didn't.
increased as people were claiming that the study did, but they came out and said that the study showed that there is no
No, they
uh,
didn't.
decrease in suicide rates
No, they didn't.
post or with the use of hormone blockers.
No, they
So my
didn't.
question is, why would you want kids to, chemically castrate and generally mutilate themselves and then increase their suicide rate due to, mental illness? I mean, why do you not like kids?
So again,
I guess
it's
that's the
not what
first question.
the Sweden study says. The Sweden study shows that after sex reassignment surgery, first of all, Sweden study wasn't even talking about hormone therapy, it was talking about sex reassignment surgery. It shows that after sex reassignment surgery, the suicide rate for trans individuals is still high, comparative to the general population, but it is lower than other groups of trans people before reassignment surgery. But because that's not even what they accounted for in the study. It also says in the study that reassignment surgery is still important for transitioning, but to couple it with therapy. So if you're going to quote the study, I need you to know what the study actually says.
It's funny because there was 108 different citations of the study that all linked it towards articles that were referring to the harms of transition surgery and hormone blockers. So, I mean, I'm curious, why would they cite a study that directly didn't lend any credence to what they were saying? I mean, it kind of seems like you're ignoring part of the study and just cherry picking the part.
Why. Because they misread the study.
There's
Yes,
a long-term.
The study was misread.
Well, what about
yes.
the long-term effects of over 10 years?
What about it?
Well, that's when the study showed that if you look at periods over 10 years, the suicide rate does not decrease whether you talk about surgery or hormone blockers. And
so yeah, this would also be incorrect if you'd like the actual longitudinal studies, like studies that are done over a long period of time. This is not what it shows in any way, shape, or form. Would you like me to pull up the long term studies that actually analyze this?
Well, I mean, it's just basically you're going to say that the study doesn't say what it says because it goes against your narrative, and you're biased, and you're a hypocrite.
No, I'm going to say the study goes against what I say
because
because
you don't want to acknowledge anything that goes against your narrative, man. That's how your channel runs.
Provide a study that says what you're saying. Provide me the name of the study.
You have the cohort study and that talks about suicides, and you have the Kalinska study. I believe both of them were out of Sweden. It talks about the harms of gender dysphoria, the high suicide rates.
Provide the name of the study.
Trans people attempt to kill themselves, man.
Provide the name of the study.
Okay, the name of the study is the cohort, COHORT, and it's out of Sweden, and it deals with the suicide
cohort
rate.
is not a name of the study. Cohort is going to... Okay. I
is the name of an institution. Okay, well, however you want to refer to it. All right.
cohort is
This is
not an
another thing you do is
institution
because
either.
when you get on a point that you can't acknowledge and you can't debate
Cohort is
about,
not
you
a
want to turn to
cohort.
definitions. You
So I
want to
don't know
turn
if
to
you know this.
grammatical.
I don't know if you know this. Cohort is a type of study. It's when you say that the study is a cohort study, it's saying it's a study that analyzes a group of people. So by just saying the cohort, that's not telling me anything. Tell me the name of the study. All you're doing is saying it's a cohort. Cool. There are hundreds and thousands of cohort studies. So I'm not going to look for a needle in a haystack. Give me the name of the study.
Just look for the study that talks about the high suicide rates in trans people, man. It's
I'm
a
not
cohort
going
study.
to do your homework for you. You provide the name
The
of the
Swedish
study.
study.
I've
I
pulled,
mean, you're good
I
with Google.
have the Sweden study pulled up. The Sweden study is a long-term follow-up of transsexual persons undergoing sex reassignment surgery, and it's a cohort study in Sweden. What the cohort study of Sweden says is that persons with transsexualism after sex reassignment have considerably higher risk for mortality, suicidal behavior than the general population. Their findings suggest
Why is that?
Let me finish. Their findings suggest that sex reassignment, although alleviating gender dysphoria, may not suffice for as treatment for transsexualism alone, and that it should also be coupled with psychiatric and somatic care. So anything
Because
that says stupid, that's not what we're talking about.
Change your
Stupid,
sex,
that's not what we're talking about.
And when you
That's not what we're
mentally
talking
think
about,
that you
dumbass.
can, and then
That's
you
not what we're
find
talking
out that
about.
you can't
That's
change
not
your
what we're
sex,
talking about. That's
you
not what
end
we're
up
talking
killing
about.
yourself,
That's
man.
not what we're talking about, stupid. We're talking about whether or not there are better
Calm
mental
down,
health.
Biggins.
That's not what we're talking about, stupid. We're talking about whether or not there
Calm
are
down,
better.
Biggins.
We're talking about whether or not there is positive mental outcomes from gender affirming care. The Sweden study shows that there is.
Suicide rate
The
is 8
Sweden
times
study
greater than
shows
the general
that there
public.
is, you absolute dingus. It quite literally
Hey,
shows
calm
that
down,
there
your
is.
diabetes is going to flare up, and you're going to pop an artery on your
It's
YouTube
not
channel,
my
man.
fault.
Calm
You're
down.
stupid.
I mean, you look embarrassing
It's
enough
not
as
my
it
fault.
is.
You're stupid. I'm just gonna mute you, right? I'm just gonna mute you. I just muted you. I just muted you, so it doesn't matter. You can keep talking. I'm going to mute you, and now I'm going to speak to the audience because you're an idiot. So again, I'm going to read the conclusion one more time, since apparently this guy's too stupid to understand. So the persons with transsexualism first of all, we don't even use these terms anymore. Persons with transsexualism after sex reassignment have considerably higher risk for mortality, suicidal behavior, and psychiatric morbidity than the general population. Not amongst each other. If we're going to look at whether or not there is regret, or whether or not there is better mental health outcomes amongst other trans groups, we have to look at studies that actually show this. And then again, when we look at the amendum that the people who wrote the Sweden study put out, their amendum literally says, we didn't study trans people who are post gender affirming care with trans people that were pre-gender affirming care. We only studied post-gender affirming care on the general population, and our findings show that sexual reassignment surgery is still a viable option for gender dysphoria, but it is, or not gender dysphoria, for mental health risk, but it is not the only option that should be done, which everybody knows this because the current WPATH model quite literally says therapy is coupled with all of these things. So I understand that this guy is kind of stupid, and it would be really, really easy if this guy who's stupid actually read his studies, but he didn't. He read a headline that talked about the Sweden study and then never actually opened the Sweden study to look at any of these things. Now you're unmuted. You can say what you want. No, you didn't.
I read the amendum, and the amendum said exactly what I said. It said
no, it
there
doesn't.
is that zero. Hold on, it says right here. When it comes to hormones and surgery, show no mental health benefit.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's right out of the amendment of the study,
it's
man.
not.
Like I said, you like to cherry pick things because you're mentally delusional, like the people that you're advocating for have mental delusions.
What I love is when you just lie. It does not say that.
I'm exposing your hypocrisy and your bias because you're advocating for people
making
to kill
things
themselves.
up because it doesn't say that.
Themselves have mental health issues. People who advocate that people should kill themselves have mental health issues as well. So I question your mental.
All you're doing is lying, and it's fine if you want to just lie.
8
It's fine if you want to just lie.
Greater suicide rates in the normal population trans people have. Let's talk about that.
No, that's not the question, dummy. That wasn't the question. The question is does gender affirming care does gender affirming care lower suicide rates? Which, yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
There is zero mental health benefits, and that's why
there's
they
not.
said in the study
I
that,
know
that they
they
need to
don't
have
say it in the
mental health
study.
benefits, because in the
They
study it
said
also
it needs
mentioned
to
the
be
people who
coupled.
decline to go to see their
Do I need to read it
therapist.
again? Do I need to read it again for the third time? Do I need to read it for the third time? Here, I'll read it for the third time. I'm going to mute you and read it for the third time. I muted him, so I'm going to read it for the third time. Persons with transsexualism after sex reassignment have considerably higher risk for mortality, suicide behavior, and psychiatric morbidity than the general population. Their findings suggest that sex reassignment, although alleviating gender dysphoria, so the sex reassignment does alleviate gender dysphoria, it may not suffice as treatment for transsexualism and should inspire psychiatric and somatic care after the sex reassignment of this patient group. So they're saying after they've had sexual reassignment surgery, there should also be psychiatric and somatic care. They are not saying that the sexual reassignment surgery should not be done. They're not saying that sexual reassignment surgery doesn't work. They're saying that it should be coupled with psychiatric and somatic care, which is what we do and why we are on the current WPATH standard. This guy doesn't know this because he didn't actually read the study. If he had read the study, he would know this, but he didn't actually read the study.
And what you're doing is you're cherry picking.
I read the entirety of the conclusion. I read the entirety of the conclusion. This is the entirety of the conclusion of the study. It's not cherry picking to read the entirety of the conclusion to the study. That's not cherry picking.
So can I address what you just said in the study with a significantly higher suicide rate than the general population? Let's talk about that.
Okay, go ahead.
So people that are mentally ill tend to commit suicide. People that advocate that people should commit suicide, I believe, are also mentally ill. I don't know why you want to advocate for children to adopt an ideology that's going to make them
none of this has anything to do with what we're talking about.
Well, I am, man. If kids have a higher suicide rate than adults who transition, why are you advocating that children should transition when their likelihood of suicide rate is extremely higher than the general population?
Yeah.
Man. I mean,
so again, the reason for we can pull up the actual reasons for trans suicide, but every extensive study that we have on the suicide rate for trans people, nope. Every extensive study that we have, you're not going to find a single one that says the suicide rate is due to their gender. Every single study we have on this shows that the reasons for suicide are family and societal ostracization. That is the highest reason for suicide amongst the trans community. Every single one. Every single one.
They're mentally
single one.
I mean,
nope, it has nothing to do with that.
Who aren't mentally
ill. So that doesn't say anything. You just don't read the studies that you're purporting. Now, how about you do this? If you believe this, give me a source to show it. Any I'll take any fucking source. Anyone.
What do you mean? You just read in the study that the suicide rate is higher than the normal population. I mean, that's a source right there.
Hold on.
There's your source, bud.
Hold on. It is due to familial and societal ostracization. The other evidence we have is that after transitioning, currently under the WPATH model, there is a 70% reduction in suicidality. 70%. 70% reduction.
Not over 10 years,
Yes. Over 10 years. Yes.
No change.
No.
Over 10 years.
No. You have nothing that shows that.
Well,
in fact,
I have a
long-term peer-reviewed longitudinal study which took place over a period of 10 to 24 years that finds that through medical treatment and legal affirmation, transgender people experience improved qualitative and quantitative outcomes regarding mental health and overall well-being. This is a 10 to 24-year longitudinal study. Try again.
Okay, well then, how about this, man? If people who experience gender dysphoria, or whatever your definition of it is, experience suicide at a much greater rate, then why would you advocate for people to adopt
gender dysphoria is not something you adopt. Gender dysphoria is a mental health condition. Gender dysphoria is going to happen to you whether you want it to or not. You have no control over whether you are or are not gender dysphoric. The only thing you have control over is whether we are allowing people to transition to alleviate gender dysphoria. You don't want them to transition. You want them to kill themselves.
Treat these nut bags with the therapist instead of having them
Go fuck yourself. Honestly, go fuck yourself. Honestly, go fuck yourself. You haven't been able to provide any evidence for your claims. You don't know how to read, because I read you all the actual shit in your study and my studies. Fuck yourself. There's a lot of shit I will withstand here, but you're not just gonna sit here and fucking insult every trans person by calling them nutbags. You're a piece of shit. Straight up. Continue being a piece of shit. I don't give a fuck. But you ain't gonna do it here. Plain and simple. By the way, anytime you guys get into a debate, real talk, if somebody brings up the Sweden study, just laugh in their face because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They have never read the Sweden study. They don't know what the Sweden study actually says.